We have our guest speaker, and as Mark said on the onset, for those of you who are here first time, we have a Tuesday night. It's called MPB After Dark. This is our we'll be approaching our 17th year as a men's group this September. So a round of applause for that and the Holy Spirit. But we started the quarterly mass for men and the MPB After Dark where we had speakers come in. And tonight's speaker is here with us today, Jack Krasula. He grew up on the south side of Chicago. He attended Catholic schools pretty much your whole life, right, through grade school and high school, and was educated by the nuns. So if you don't believe him, just look at the top side of his hands, and you'll see how well he listened and behaved. In college, he took one computer course. He took one computer course. Yeah, they had computers back then. But they took that one course. And then when he graduated, Illinois Bell gave him a job to be a computer programmer. No, that's serious. That wasn't a joke. That part is serious. See, in 1976, he moved to Detroit and started an IT business consulting firm. For those who don't know what IT means, it means what?
Information technology.
Information technology. Good job. An IT business services firm. In 26 years, it grew to 1,800 people, 1,800 employees working for that firm. Jack did an enormous job helping grow that business. In May of 2002, he sold the firm. As many of you know who are retired in the room, think about what's next. What do I do next with my time? What is God's going to tell me? And Jack took some time off and he prayed, he listened, talked to his coaches, his mentors, his friends, his family. What's next for Jack? So one day he got this call from the president of WJR. He said, Jack, I'd like to meet with you. I think we got an opportunity for you. He said, okay. They meet. He learns about the opportunity. He says, Jack says, can I have a week or so to think about it, pray about it, make sure it's the right fit? And he says, sure, take your time. Think about it, make sure it's the right fit. So during that week, he prayed, thought about it, talked to his coaches and mentors. And one day he woke up, he went over to the mirror, looked in the mirror and said, God, you're right. I am going to take this job. I do have a face for radio. And so there started his career in radio. Seriously, 21 years it's been on the air, right, Jack? 21 years?
Yes.
A little over 750 guests have been on that show. 750 guests. And he always says, he goes, he's not the host. He's the beneficiary of meeting all those unique people. In fact, he was so inspired by all the people that he had met and interviewed on his show. He wrote a book in 2019, With God, Anything is Possible. And he'll speak on some of those tonight. He also has some books here if you'd like to purchase some and buy them and read it. It is a great book of one of his favorite, or most of his favorite interviews at that time, up to 2019. Jack has met many different people in his career, around the world, around the States, and he taught him so much that he's learned from each one of them. Some of that's captured in this book, and some of it you'll hear tonight. He also created and started the successful AIP speaker series in 2021. Just this fall, it's going to enter its 6th season. A very successful program, which I'm sure some of you have gone to, and it's right here now at St. John's Resort, right up the street. He states the real joy in life is working hard at something. Success is a journey, not a destination. His father always told him, Jack, stay and be humble. Stay humble, be humble. He was here tonight to share some of those inspiring stories of how God has chosen the most unlikely people to do his greatest work. Regular Joes, let's give Jack Krasula a big warm welcome.
Thank you, Tom. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for coming on this beautiful night. And Monsignor, thank you. In 2002, I had the honor of having a couple lunches with Chuck Colson. He was known in the Nixon White House as the hatchet man. He was special counsel to President Nixon, had the office right next to him. He was cutthroat. And he went to prison in '74 for obstruction of justice in the Daniel Ellsberg case. And while there, some of the prisoners told him about Jesus. And he started to turn his life around. When he left, they said, "Chuck, don't forget about us." And that started Prison Fellowship. He authored 22 books. Prison Fellowship today is over 100,000 volunteers in 126 countries. He told me a lot of things. First, I got him to write me his philosophy of life. He said, "Jack, God's ways are not our ways. Things happen that we don't understand, good and bad. And God regularly uses the least likely people to do his greatest work." Tom mentioned that I'm from the south side of Chicago. I've got a couple cousins that grew up in Dalton, Illinois. And they played ball with a kid named Bobby Prevost. Jack, Bobby couldn't hit the curveball, Jack. Today, Bobby is Leo the 14th. We got a pope from the south side of Chicago. Anything is possible. Okay? So Colson told me a couple stories. He says, other than the Jewish carpenter from Nazareth, you could argue that three of the greatest men of faith in the history of the world, 10 billion people, would be David, Moses, and St. Paul. Now, Al Gore would be raising his hand. Jesse Jackson, the Trumpster would be raising his hand. Okay? Three of the greatest men of faith in the history of the world, David, Moses, and St. Paul, men, had one other thing in common. Ben, those three men were each murderers. David killed Bathsheba's husband. He wanted Bathsheba. Monsignor, not much has changed in thousands of years. Okay? Moses was killing the Pharaoh's people, and Saul of Tarsus was killing these Christian kooks. And Colson told the story because he was dealing with murderers. Here he took three murderers, made them three of the greatest men of faith. God's ways are not our ways. Next. Look at this person's life. On the left are things that happened to him, and on the right are his age. If any of your daughters or granddaughters come home and say, "Dad, Pops, I've met the woman, I've met the guy," well, today you could say, okay, all right. Bless me, Father. Okay. Okay. I've met the man of my dreams. I'm in love. He's Mr. Perfect. Let me tell you about him. Failed in business, defeated, failed in business again, sweetheart died, nervous breakdown, defeated, elected once, defeated. This guy was a loser. This guy was worse than my Cubs for 108 years. We had a tough century. You Lions fans, you're just teenagers so far, okay? And unless you get a better offensive line this year, you're still going to be waiting next year. Okay. All right. The man didn't quit. At age 51, he runs again, this time to be the President of the United States of America. Arguably our greatest, the 16th, Abraham Lincoln. This man was a loser. So here's a letter from January 1865, written by Abraham Lincoln, just 3 or 4 months before he was murdered. Okay? God's ways are not our ways. Arguably, the greatest man of the first half of the 20th century was a cigar-smoking, drinking, uncouth, told it like it was, got voted out of office, not the Trumpster, okay? And he saved the world. Winston Churchill saved the world. He loved to drink, he loved a cigar. He would go to a lot of functions. And there was a snooty lady, Lady Astor. They hated each other. Kind of like Pelosi and the Trumpster, maybe, okay? And one time he's got a drink in his hand, cigar, and Lady Astor comes up and says, Winston, if I was married to you, I would poison that drink. He shoots back, Lady Astor, if I was married to you, I would drink that drink. That's not a sin, is it, Monsignor? Okay, all right. This is another Colson story. This man, without a high school degree, he's in the Gdansk shipyards in the late 70s. He's got an idea. Communist Poland, guys. He's got an idea. We're going to organize the men in the Gdansk shipyards. That's a sure way to go to the gulag, never to be seen again. Okay? Shipped out. He ultimately became the president of Poland. Communist Poland. Then God takes, not yet, Ted. Then God takes two actors. They had never performed together. They had never even met. And both those actors were shot point blank within 1 month of each other in 1981. The first one had become St. John Paul II the Great. That's a Time Person of the Year covered, signed by him. Okay? He was an actor as a kid. The other one had become a president. His biggest movie was with a monkey, Bedtime with Bonzo. My dad was a Democrat. South side of Chicago, everybody was, right? He said, Jackie, other than having you, the biggest mistake I ever made was I voted once, Republican, for Bonzo Jack. For Bonzo. All right? Both those men were shot within 1 month of each other. They meet. Then God takes the iron will lady, Todd, Margaret Thatcher. Guys, these are things that are all autographed. Okay? The iron will lady. And then, Todd, then he takes a traitor of Russia. That's what Putin would call this guy. Gorbachev. This is Chuck Colson, Jack. Those 5 people, with only 2 bullets, one in the Pope, one in Reagan, freed hundreds of millions of people from communism without 1 bullet. Now we're electing more and more communists right here with no bullets. Okay. All right. You got to throw some humor in, Monsignor, okay? Okay. Speaking of humor, America's religion is back. It's been gone for 6 months, Monsignor. This weekend is the Pro Football Hall of Fame game. Believe it or not, the NFL is back this weekend. Get your clickers, get your pizza, okay? 6 games at once on Saturday between, noon to 4, boom. Now on Sunday, we got them at 9 o'clock most every week from Europe. All day long. We got them Thursday night, we got them Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's a religion in America. The NFL started 1920. There's been 27,000 men to play in the NFL. This weekend, 5 more get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. That means there'll be up to 387 men in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. If you could be any positional athlete in America, you would be an NFL quarterback. Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Montana, Johnny Unitas, Jared Goff when you give him time. Nowadays, any college quarterback or profile, you give them time, they're all Hall of Fame quarterbacks, okay? It's unbelievable. Okay. Hall of Fame quarterback, quintessential, icons. There's only been 30 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the Pro Football Hall of Fame of 27,000 men. Doug Flutie, not in the Hall of Fame, but Heisman Trophy winner. Okay? Boomer Esiason, Cincinnati. Jim Kelly, Buffalo. Dan Marino, Miami. John Elway, Denver. Kurt Warner, the Cardinals. We just named 6 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and they have one other thing in common. When we come back, we'll find out the rest of the story. Right, Chris? We got to have some commercials, okay? I got to have some commercials. All right. Those 6 all say they've been blessed with a special needs son. And in each case, that couple has raised millions for that disease because of who they are. So here, God, he's a comedian. He takes these icons. I mean, Dan Marino, the fastest gun in the West. He got to the Super Bowl his first year and never got back. John Elway could throw the thing through a rock. The best in the world, and he blesses them with a special needs son. Whenever I've had somebody on the show with a special needs child, they always refer to that child as their inspiration from God, their gift from God, their angel, their teacher. So on this piece of paper are 22 of those 30 Hall of Fame quarterbacks signed. I used to send these sheets in the mail one after another. So some of these sheets have got 40, 45 Hall of Famers on one piece of paper. It would go in the mail. Every day was Christmas. There'd be 3, 4 of these things coming back. The mailman had no idea what was in these envelopes. I didn't know it. You open, and waloo, every day was Christmas. So 22 of them right there. Okay. Francis Diaz-Chang, Costa Rica. Graduates high school. He does not speak a word of English. Costa Rica. But he's got a dream. He wants to come to America. The parents are these helicopter parents. As a high school gift, they give him $50 and a one-way ticket from Costa Rica to New York City, as opposed to our high school or our helicopter parents today. Here's $50, one-way ticket, Costa Rica to New York City. Follow your dream. He learns English, goes to college, New York College, goes to MIT, gets a degree in nuclear fission. Every 2, 3, 4 years, NASA would select another 8, 10 astronauts. Every astronaut up until this point had been a fighter pilot. That's what they wanted. But in 1981, in the 5th class of astronauts, they said, we need an engineer. So the first non-fighter pilot that they select is Franklin Diaz-Chang. Friends, he's the only astronaut that's gone up 7 times. God's ways are not our ways. Here's a handwritten letter, Todd, on the philosophy of life from Franklin Chang. Next, a Detroit kid. Never met his dad. He was known as the dunce of the class, the bully of the class. He had an awful temper. He's in 2nd or 3rd grade. Some kid looked at him the wrong way. Comes to school next day with a butcher knife. And he stabs the kid in the gut. 3rd grader. Lucky the kid had a metal belt. Okay? So it didn't hurt the kid. But they throw him out of school. The mom says, you're going to go to the library. Every weekend you're going to bring 10 books home. You're going to read 10 books, and you're going to write book reports, which he would do. And she, with a red pen, would make markings. Okay? This guy said, Jack, I never knew my mom couldn't read. She would just make markings. He had a dream he wanted to be a doctor. Goes to Yale, undergrad, then he goes to the University of Michigan Medical School. Then, Johns Hopkins Medical School is going to select 2 people for their neurosurgery department. 125 candidates, and one of the 2 is selected by the name of Dr. Benjamin Carson. Movie, Gifted Hands, all right, the author of several books. In 1997, he leads a team, Jack, I led a team of 70 people in a 20-hour operation to separate Siamese twins from the head. The first time it had ever been done by this kid that got thrown out of school. The dunce of the class, the bully. Mom couldn't read. 70 people, 20 hours. I said, when you got done, what did you do? He says, well, I want to scrub my hands. I got on my knees and I said a prayer. Then what did you do? Then I went out to talk to the parents. What'd you say? I looked at him and I said, which son would you like to see first? Gentle Ben. Housing secretary, phenomenal human being. Also doing commercials now too, I think, you know? Okay, so there's his philosophy of life. People say, Jack, you've had 1,100 guests, 3 Miss Americas, 7 astronauts, 50 Hall of Famers, cardinals, governors, senators. Who's been the best? Well, the second best is Peter Pretorius from South Africa, not the Blade Runner, you know, not the kid that stabbed the girlfriend by mistake. Okay? This guy was a tobacco farmer, an internationally known Formula One race car driver, and a wild man. Jacka did it all. Wasn't sure there was a God. 1984, I hear there's a feeding center in Mozambique. So I have somebody fly me on a puddle jumper for the day. I wanted to check the feeding center out, 1984. The deal was he was going to come back that night. He didn't come back for 10 days. There were no phones, and his wife thought he's dead. I get there, Jack, there's 30,000 people in this feeding center and no food. First thing that happens is a mom comes up and says, would you hold my infant son while I try to find water? And while she's gone, the little boy starves to death in my arms. The mom comes back, I got to give the mom the dead son. Jack, every day I saw 200 to 300 kids starve to death every day in that feeding center. Still today, guys, every 8 seconds, somebody in this world starves to death. That's 10,800 a day, every day. For 10 days, Jack, I'm up there. God, I even up there, what the hell are you doing? Why you let these babies? I'm screaming at God for 10 days. And then God speaks to him on the 10th day and says, Peter, do what you can to feed them, and I'll help you. That started JAM, Joint Aid Management, which today, 42 years later, is feeding 1 million kids a day. You give me $50 a year. I used to say you give me 1 Starbucks a month. Now, 1 gallon of gasoline a month okay? And I can feed a kid every day for $50. 1 million kids a day. There's his letter. Short. Life really begins when you go beyond yourself, taking on what seem to be impossible challenges for the purpose of assisting others. Fulfillment comes as a result of seeing lives changed by what you've done. Jim and Michelle Smithers are hippies in the 70s. They meet a biker who evangelizes about Jesus to them. And these hippies get married. And they have a son, Jim Smither. They have 6 kids. Then they adopt 8. They raise 14 kids. I'll talk about Jim in a minute. But the 6th kid is Jenny Brown. Graduates college. She's a basketball player, becomes a model, marries a baseball pitcher for the Los Angeles Angels, Brett Brown. She has 5 children. Daisy in 2008, Scarlett 9, Myra also in 9, and 2 adopted special needs kids. And in 2010, this mom with these 5 little kids starts, somebody gives her a piece of land outside Rochester, Michigan, dirt. And she starts growing vegetables and puts up a little shack to sell them. And she starts Dutton Farm. Then they start making candles, incense, etc., etc. Today, Dutton Farm employs 325 people. 250 have one thing in common. They're all special needs adults. Put her letter up, Ted. Here's the first. Let's keep with that picture, okay? I've been on the board of Real Estate One for 30 years. The CFO is Kevin Donovan, who lives out here. This guy's all numbers, okay? And he's got a son or daughter, Haley, born 1996. 5-6 years ago, he and I are having lunch. And he's talking about Haley. And he's crying, and the tears are going down into his pizza. It's like a flood of tears. She has Asperger's. But Haley, the night before, had come home with her first paycheck at 26 years old. Dutton Farm had hired her. And this dad, never saw a prouder dad in your life, bawling because Haley's got a job. 325 people, 250 are special needs people. With God, anything's possible. That's impossible. Okay, let's go. Another one of the daughters of those 6, her and her husband has a charity in Pontiac for abused women. Now, Jim Smither he's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks. We just taped him. Rachel's a singer. They're married. They have a 7-year-old daughter, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 6-week-old daughter. 4 daughters. Jim watches Rick Warren, Pastor Rick Warren, Saddleback Church, Purpose-Driven Life, one day talk about the orphans in Africa. And he comes home and he says, Rachel, honey, we have to sell the house, sell the furniture, sell the car, and we're going to move to Durban, South Africa. And she says, give me a month. And they move in 2007. South Africa has 65 million people, 6 million orphans because of AIDS. It's the rape capital of the world, especially young girls. If you have AIDS in South Africa, the way you get rid of AIDS is to have a virgin. If you have sex with a virgin, that's how you get rid of AIDS. The voodoo doctors, etc. Unbelievable. So he says, Jack, 16 suitcases. We got one-way tickets. Okay? Talk about faith. They land, they don't know where to live, they don't know anything, and here's this white family. And he starts knocking on doors. Today, Key of Hope reaches 1,700 kids every week. $1.7 million budget. So that's the first gym. Jenny's the sixth. And I forget the name of the daughter, the third one. How? From this hippie couple. Well, it's because of Becca, Jack. Becca was Down syndrome, one of our sisters, born 1975. Doctor said, we'll take her away, and the Smithers said, no, she's our daughter. And we learned from Becca. And look what this family's doing for the good of the world because of that Down syndrome sister. The dark is getting darker, but, Monsignor, the light is getting lighter. You don't hear about it, but there's tremendous good being done. Okay, Jack, who's the best guest you've ever had? I've had him on 5 times. First time he was 23 years old. He says, Jack, write down the word disable, D-I-S-A-B-L-E. 23-year-old kid. Now put a G and an O in front of it. Jack, what do you get? God is able. And Jack, we're all disabled on the inside, on the outside, we're all disabled. But if you surrender to God, let go, let God, it's amazing what he can do with disabled people. He's now 44. He's got 2 sons, twin daughters, beautiful family, a Hispanic, Chinese wife, gorgeous. He's this generation's Billy Graham. He has reached 2.8 billion people. We got to go a couple, okay? 2.8 billion people. Hold on. Okay, all right. He's known as the limbless evangelist. He was born with no limbs, no stumps. Jack, for the first 15 years of my life, I hated my life. I was bullied, okay? Tried to commit suicide. Jack, it's kind of hard to do when you got no arms and legs. And then I was reading the Bible, and this passage about there was a blind man, and they said, Rabbi, what did this man's parents do to make him blind? And the rabbi said, the teacher said, they didn't do anything. This man is blind so that others can see. And that's when Nick Vujicic says, I have a purpose. 2,700 speeches later, he has reached 2.8 billion, with a B, people on this earth. One time I had him on and I said, Nick, if God came down and said, I'll give you those arms and legs that you begged me for, you cursed me for, your choice, you want them or not. God, I don't need them. Now, Jack, I do have a pair of shoes in the closet, just in case, Jack. I've now met 30 people in the world I can wrestle with. When I get done talking here, Jack, I'm going to Thailand. You talk about Christ in Thailand, they arrest you. But I'm not really too worried because it's not like the handcuff's going to work on me, Ben. So he uses humor, okay? He's unbelievable. I had him a couple years ago for the 1000th show. He wrote me his philosophy of life with his mouth. Better writing than any doctor I've ever seen in my life. Okay? For the 1000th show 2 years ago, he had just gotten back from Ecuador. And they put him up on a stage. He speaks with one of those. And afterwards, they gave him a room behind the stage to calm down. And he's there, and all of a sudden the doors open, and here are 4 guys with Uzis, submachine guns. He said, "Was it something I said?" And then they part, and here's a guy in a suit. "Nick, my name is Pedro Castillo, and I'm the dictator of Ecuador. I didn't want to come tonight. My wife made me. Don't matter who you are or where you are. Ben, you'll learn someday, Ben, okay? Yes, dear, okay? Happy wife, happy life, Ben." And Nick, I don't believe in God. And after listening to you, I still don't believe in God. But I got to tell you a story. And then he puts his arm on his shoulder and he says, "Later this week in our Congress, we're going to vote on a bill that I'm the sponsor of." Nick, the bill basically says if a woman's pregnant, we know something's wrong, we'll terminate the pregnancy. And after listening to you tonight, Nick, I realize I was wrong. And I'm going to go on national TV tomorrow, and I'm going to tell my people I was wrong. And we ain't going to vote on that bill. We ain't going to allow that stuff. Can you imagine the Trumpster go on a national TV to say I was wrong? Now the other side. To Sleepy Joe would go on, "I was wrong. I don't remember what I was wrong about, but I was wrong." Okay? All right. God does his greatest work with the least likely people. He was, 29, 30. I was going to ask him some crazy question, and he said, "Jack, I was just witness to another miracle." This is how he puts it. "I was just witness to another miracle. Can I share it with you?" I says, "Well, every guest shares 2 or 3 miracles." "Sure." They were just in Mumbai, India, and he's got a handler, Andy, that takes him around. They got motorized wheelchair, etc. Goes all over the world. So they're in Mumbai, India, and they're in a very famous sex trafficking area where there's literally hundreds of brothels for 40 years. No lights, dogs, filth everywhere. It's awful. Thousands of sex slaves. Girls, 13, 14, 15, 16. Sold into slavery for $300, in most cases, by their own mom or dad. Wow. So I spoke to 25 of them. They all turned their life over to Christ. We had enough money to buy 4 of them out of slavery. And he puts me back in the van. It's all dark, boom, 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 filth everywhere, dogs. And I say, "Andy, we have to go in that brothel." "No, Nick, we got to get out. We ain't their kind of people over here. No, well, we got to go." God's screaming at me, "Get out of here." Nick says, "No, God's screaming at me. I go in there. Take me in there." So he puts them in, rolls them into the brothel. And here's the old madame. Looks kid with no limbs. "Who are you?" "Ma'am, I'm Nick Vujicic from Austin, Texas." "What's your name?" "Are you the kid's been here talking about to the girls, you rabble-rousing, cussing, swearing, boom, boom, boom. Get out of here. I'm going to get a gun. I'm going to kill you. Get out of here." And Andy's over there, "Listen to her, Nick, listen to her." And then Andy says, "Ma'am, God told me to come in here. Why?" He's 29 years old, no limbs. So she walks him down this long hallway with doors on both sides to the last door on the left. Opens the door, very tiny room, one little light, and a mattress that takes up almost the whole floor. And here's an old lady laying on the mattress. And the madame says, "That's my older sister. She ain't walked in 5 years. Make her walk." So you put Nick in, he falls on you. That's how he hugs you. He falls on you, and then he can bounce up. So he falls on her. He says, "Ma'am, I commend you. Get up." And he gets up, and she ain't walked in 5 years. She can't get up. She don't get up. And the madame goes crazy. See you lying, cussing, boom, 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 boom. You're phony. I got the gun. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to kill you. And then he's over there, Nick, go to that prayer on page 62. Sing that baby ain't like you never sung that prayer before, Nick. Go to the closer, okay? The best you got. So he falls on her again. Says, ma'am, by the power of our Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, I commend you. Get up and walk. And Jack, she gets up and she walks. He doesn't say he's performed miracles. He'll tell you now that he's, seen 18 miracles. Doesn't say he's performed, okay? So she gets up and walks. The madame says, that ain't your God. Nick says, what? My God's been in here. Andy, you don't want to come in here. That's our God. We got in here. We got to walk and get out of here. I got the gun. I'm going to kill you. Get out of here. And with that, the older sister says, I believe. So they leave. Go, a couple weeks later, they find out that that older sister was the original madame that started the whole thing 40 years before. God does his greatest work with the least likely. Look at Vladimir Zelensky. He was a comedian. He was a comedian on TV. He became the president. Look what Ukraine is doing with no money, minimal people, no technology, taking on Russia. And what they're doing with drones as a nation, banded together like we did in this country for the Second World War with Rosie the Riveter. Rosie the Riveter. Henry Ford says, I'm going to quit making cars. I'm going to go to Will Run. I'm going to make these bombers. I'm going to make one every hour. They said, no, it takes like 8 weeks to make every one. No, I'm going to make one every hour, and we're going to have women making them. They thought he was nuts. But guys, the whole country came together. That's what Ukraine has done with Zelensky. Okay? David versus Goliath. So Jack, what does this mean to me? When I pray, I'm always telling God what I want him to do. Because I know better than God what's good for me. Matthew Kelly says, Jack, God knows better. Also, Jack, you want God to tweak. Pam? Some of the people at WJR Radio, very few, okay? Neighbors, in-laws, brother-in-laws, etc., okay? Parishioners, Monsignor, okay? People at the AOD sometimes, Monsignor, okay? All right. We want him to tweak. Matthew Kelly says God ain't in the tweaking business. He's in the transformation business. Father Ricardo says, we were put here at this time specifically for a purpose. This isn't by chance. In these crazy times, we got a purpose, every one of us. And the purpose is meant for greatness for every one of us. Be not afraid. The most used phrase in the Bible, 365 times in the Bible. Be not afraid. That's what that John Paul II said all over the world, 52 languages. Guys, the rebirth of this country is going to come from us. And we got to stand up. We got to be courageous to our kids, our grandkids, in great actions. And Monsignor, what this parish does, what Tom Baston and all you guys have done for the last 17 years is phenomenal. I commend you. I commend you. Keep it up. Do even greater. So with that, a couple of pitches. On your tables is a little QR code. I've started a virtual vault pilot museum of some of these phenomenal things that I have. Doesn't cost anything. You just look it up. There's currently 12 categories. Okay? You can click on any of them, and there's 25 to 30 special things in each category. Also, a couple years ago, I started a YouTube channel, AIP Speaker Series. Doesn't cost anything. The first row are the last 2+ years of these monthly speakers we have at St. John's. The next row are the last 2+ years worth of radio shows. And then 100, we've created 12-minute videos on lives of some of these phenomenal people that I have philosophy of life letters from. We talk about their life, we put music behind it, pictures, and then at the end we show you the letter. So that's AIP Speaker Series. Season 6 of the AIP Speaker Series at St. John's starts September 9th. Many of you know him, Darrell Woods. 29 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. Doesn't have an ounce of bitterness in him. He's unbelievable. Teams up with Mitch Albom for something called Better Together. He is phenomenal. If you got somebody in your family or on down the street that's bitter about something, bring them to this thing. No registration, no cost. At the end, Ben, we serve the world's greatest carrot cake cupcakes. Tom Baston always comes home with 6 or 7. He says he's bringing them to the men, but I don't think the men have ever gotten them the next morning, okay? Okay, and then lastly, like Tom said in 2019, myself and Dale Buss, Dale Buss wrote a book. All I did was tell him which 15 people we're going to highlight, give him copies of the show, and he did the rest. But the book, With God Anything is Possible. If you want, I'll personalize it. And thank you for listening. You were meant for this. You're put on this earth in this spot right now, specifically to make a difference. God bless.